Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Sideline Banter. I am Sam Holt, joined as always by my co-host, Derek Tate, and we are brought to you by the Women of Fantasy Football Network, and we are so grateful that they're hosting us and our wonderful show. But Tate, how are you today? It is week 6. We have another running back hurt. We have, a trade to talk about. There's just things. There's always things. It's like, I feel like, when your parents are always cleaning up and you're always like making a mess and they're like, why? I just cleaned this mess up. I just feel like that's what week 6 is. I thought we cleaned this up. I thought we sorted it out, but we have more crap to talk about.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel that. Having 2 little toddler girls myself, and once they get done playing for the day, it's time for daddy to clean up. I know It's like, oh, why don't you tell them to clean up? Well, stuff happens, and you got to clean up the mess again sometimes, go right behind them, and that's what it feels like in fantasy football right now. So,
especially just looking at waivers, it's one of those times where it just feels like you just need a body, and somehow the rotation of running backs is not, or the running backs, wide receivers, tight ends even, it's just constant. And so there's no way to just keep up. Maybe it's my own frustration in the fact that I'm in so many leagues and it's so darn hard to find anyone actually available, because when I look at the list of, these players and it says they're rostered in these different leagues, I'm looking in my leagues and no one's available. So maybe it's my own personal frustration that I'm venting.
I want to talk about my idea for a patent. So call it game time decision, where you just link all of your leagues and you automatically get to make a waiver claim for that said player. So I don't have to individually go into every one of my 8 leagues. So yes, I feel that.
So fantasylife.com does have a roster HQ where it does actually make it easier for you to see all your leagues at once. However, it's not going to autopilot and do all the work for you. You do have to get in there a little bit. I know that AI is out there and helping us with so many things. I don't think that we fully have the set it and forget it, unless you're just drafting in best ball in every single league. Because even in best ball, you still have to go and make up waiver claims. You have to still add players to your team.
Yeah, it's not exciting to tell any form of technology to go make a waiver claim for Hassan Haskins, but that's where we're at.
No. This is where we are. This is our reality. We will be getting to the entire list of waiver claims shortly. Thank you all for tuning in. Please get your questions in the chat and we will run through them as quickly as we see them. Maybe even get to one right now before I jump into the new news of the week. Quick question here. This is a tight end question because I'm sure we're going to have plenty of them for this week. But this one is Warren or Kraft at tight end for this week. Which of the two are you starting, Tate?
Warren every time. Volume, and just they find ways to get him the football, even if it's in the form of carries sometimes. So Tyler Warren.
It is wild, though, because Kraft has been so effective for the Packers. And I feel like it's not necessarily a set it and forget it with Tucker Kraft, but if you have Warren, I'm hard pressed to find an excuse to sit him outside of him being on a bye, and that you literally can't start him. So for myself as well, I'm going to also agree and go Warren there. So let's go ahead and jump into the news. I mean, quickly, we can talk about Monday Night Football I was a little bit surprised. I don't know if you were surprised by this one, by the Chiefs getting a loss to the Jaguars. We can talk about that really quick. Trevor Lawrence doing the shuffle fall and then running in for a touchdown to finish the game. That was a new one. I don't think I've seen a double trip into a touchdown before.
Yeah, it felt like the Jags' entire existence over the last couple seasons was summarized in that one play. Lawrence kind of trips over himself, tries to get up, falls down again, and then somehow makes something out of nothing. It may be a change of the guard, though, Sam. Normally, the Jags over the last 2 seasons have found ways to lose those games more often than not when they're there for the taking. But in this circumstance, against that opponent and against that quarterback, kind of crazy that they found a way to pull it off against Kansas City. So the Jags are 4-1. So are the Colts. What are we to make of that?
This is the world that we live in. It's 2025, and the Jags are leading right now for many teams. And on the opposite side, the Chiefs are not looking good to start the season. They've had slow starts before, but this one, with the losses that they've had, I think is even more concerning to me going rest of season. I mean, losses to begin with in division, they lost to the Chargers week 1. Obviously, they lost to the Eagles as well. But this loss to the Jags, I think, is really concerning because they've got some interesting matchups coming up. They've got Detroit this week, which is going to be a tough game. I imagine that's going to be, a high scoring one in terms of who's going to walk away with the win. To put a stamp that they're not out, they have to win this week. There's no way, because then they've got Raiders, Commanders, and then Bills. So you've got a tiny bit of a, break, but Raiders could make it a tough one for them too. I'm a little bit concerned for the Kansas City Chiefs.
I'm not. I'm not. Like the three losses. The three losses that they have, Sam, came against three winning teams. They're like 3 losses are against teams with a combined record of 11-4 right now. Yeah. And the Chargers were a little bit healthier when they lost in week number 1. And then, then you start taking a look at the Philadelphia Eagles. They're the defending Super Bowl champions, and that was a close game. And then you look at this one, they kind of had it there for the taking, and they made an uncharacteristic mistake with Mahomes turning the ball over in the red zone. I'm not worried. They're about to get Rashee Rice back in 2 weeks, and this offense finally got something from the running game. They seem to be clicking in the passing game, and you're going to get a guy like Rice back. I understand maybe week 6 they'd take another loss, and it's hard to fathom that the Chiefs would be 2-4. But I think better days are ahead for this offense once they get back up to as close as they're going to be to full power this year.
I mean, they absolutely better in terms of, playmakers. At least, you're starting to see some fantasy value where you really wanted to see it. Travis Kelce had a good game last night as well. Hopefully with Rice back, things get even better. But yeah, I don't know. I just think it's really interesting to see these scores coming in the way that they are. So let's jump into some quick news before we get to some of these questions. Guys, I see you in the chat. We will get to all of these as quick as we can. But I want to talk about Flacco to the Bengals. We talked about it last week. Will the Bengals be making some sort of a move this next week, given their situation? And they absolutely did. But is Flacco the right move for them? Should they have maybe looked elsewhere? I feel like Flacco still has something in the tank. At least that's how I felt going into this season when he was with the Browns. But it was looking lackluster. So I don't know that this is that much of an improvement. At least he is a veteran. He's going to be very quick to pick up a playbook, I'd imagine. And maybe this helps my Ja'Marr Chase shares a tiny bit. Give me some hope going into this week.
Well, the one thing that Jake Browning hasn't been unwilling to do is sling it while he's been under center. And it's looked very ugly. You can't have as many turnovers as Browning has had, but you also look at what Flacco was doing in Cleveland, 2 touchdowns to 6 interceptions in 4 games. I understand that Ja'Marr Chase and T. Higgins are a bit of an upgrade compared to what he had at wide receiver there in Cleveland. Yeah. Maybe it helps raise the floor a tick higher, maybe, but I'm still very low on like Higgins and Chase Brown, because really I think a lot of their issues are up front, and that's not going to get better with a 40-year-old quarterback under center.
No, a little bit more concerning for his overall health going forward just with that offensive line in front of him. Though it is interesting, you don't often see quarterbacks make a run through a division. So in terms of playing for the Ravens, the Browns, now the Bengals, I don't see him making the full circuit and hitting the Steelers as well. But, just not a very common move. So I'm really interested to see how that goes. Not exactly also a quarterback I'm looking to pick up and run to the waiver wire for if he's available. This is just a move, and we're going to keep going forward.
Wait and see. Hopefully it helps raise the floor of the Bengals offense, because obviously a lot of folks invested a lot of high fantasy draft capital in those main cogs. Yeah. And hopefully Flacco gives them a little bit higher floor than what we've seen from Jake Browning over the last 3 games.
You hope. I mean, there's holes in this boat. There's been water at our feet this whole time, and we're just kind of hoping for a little bit bigger bucket to get the water out a bit quicker. I mean, not even plug the holes, just trying to get the water out faster is like all we're trying to do.
No, you've already jumped ship from the boat into like an emergency raft or something like that, and even that has a hole in it.
Somehow. It's just like a slow leak where you just like put your finger on it and you can't move. Like, it's kind of that.
It's like they're trying to cut their hand making a raft, like in the movie Castaway or something like that. But
yeah. Oh, who's Wilson that got away? That's so sad.
We're really gone off the rails with this one.
Okay. All right. Before we talk about Omarion Hampton, because there's a lot to talk about with him and the circulation at running back for waivers, and it kind of pairs together nicely. I want to get to a couple more of these questions. Let's see. We've got this one. Bill, Kraft, or Golden at flex this week? Got to help you guys set your last rosters this week, so please get those questions in.
Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt.
Bill.
Bill. So I've been speaking patience with some of these rookie running backs. It hasn't worked out in all cases, like Henderson and Harvey, cough, cough. But it did with Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. He was outstanding. I know he had the fumble lost. What was encouraging, though, is after he lost that fumble, which could have opened the door for the Chargers to get back in that football game, they put him right back out there. They gave him the ball again. So I don't think he's going to be in the doghouse from that whatsoever. So we finally saw them fully commit to JCM as their lead guy, and the results were fantastic. So I expect more of the same. As far as him seeing a uptick in work north of 10 touches, which if you get that from how efficient he's been this year, I think he's the best flex option here.
I agree. And he's also got a really friendly matchup against the Bears. They're 30th against defending the position of running back. So I just feel like it's a very favorable matchup for the Commanders here this week. They are at home as well. So just give extra little nudges in terms of wanting to get him into your lineup. So I agree. I would go Bill there for you in that start. Hello, Wendy and Andrea. Thank you, ladies, for joining us. I got a trade question here from Potato over on Discord. Potato Juice. That's a fun name.
Tater?
Sup, Tater. I got offered to give I did. Sorry. It wasn't missed on me. No. They're saying I got offered to give away Justin Jefferson and Derrick Henry for Bucky Irving and Rashee Rice. What are your thoughts? Sentences you didn't think you'd say kind of is what this trade to me gives, because I wouldn't give away Justin Jefferson and Derrick Henry for both of these players. However, Henry has been struggling quite a bit for fantasy in terms of production. Justin also not being necessarily his star-studded self that he normally is. So where are your feelings? Yeah,
so my initial feelings are I understand the logic, right? The Minnesota offense has been hit or miss, mostly struggling with, a revolving door of uninspiring options under center. And then Derrick Henry, Sam, that defense is Derrick Henry's worst game script nightmare because they cannot stop anybody. And we've always known that Derrick Henry is not a big factor in the passing game. So yes, while Lamar Jackson is hurt and not playing, and I expect that he'll probably be shelved until after their bye week.
Yeah, that's the consensus.
It's scary. I get it. And Bucky Irving, Bucks offense is still productive, even with all the issues along the offensive line and no Mike Evans and Chris Godwin just returning. And then Rashee Rice, it looks like Kansas City's offense has started to figure it out, and they're going to add him, which makes them even a little bit scarier moving forward. I get the idea, but I don't want to trade for an injured player. So
that's the other thing. Yeah, Bucky Irving dealing with a foot sprain, left in a precautionary boot this past week. I don't expect him to be playing this week either, so I feel like you're really getting Rachaad White into your lineups everywhere. I agree. I would feel better if Irving was healthy and we already had one game down of knowing what Rashee Rice is looking like in this offense. Too soon for me to go ahead and take the bait on that trade. And I like your phrasing there, giving away. It would, to me right now, feel like giving away, because I feel like, yes, Justin Jefferson's on a bye this week as well. So, only two teams on a bye this week, the Vikings and the Texans. Part of you wants to have some points on the board right away, but it doesn't feel right.
Yeah, and not to mention Bucky Irving's also dealing with a shoulder injury. So, there's multiple injuries at play here. And it's one thing if the offense dropped off completely when Bucky Irving was not in the lineup. Rachaad White did a good job in substitute duties, I guess you call it, when next man up. And they trust Rachaad White. They've seen him in this offense. He's been the lead back before. I don't think that they're going to rush Bucky Irving back onto the football field. So I would rule. I understand the thought process, but I'm not going that route.
Yeah, a little bit too spicy for me. One more running back question, and then let's talk about Omarion Hampton because he's going to lead us right into waiver discussions. This one saying, I traded Kamara for Jaylen Warren. Did I win or lose the deal?
You won today. Now, Alvin Kamara could be traded because I have a hard time believing that Kendre Miller is just straight up outplayed Alvin Kamara to the point where now we've seen his carries drop in 4 consecutive weeks. This screams to me that maybe it's a team that's floundering and they want to maybe shop a name like Alvin Kamara to a contender. That makes a little bit more sense. But as of right now, if he were to stay on the Saints for the rest of season with Kendre Miller's usage, yes, you won that trade with Jaylen Warren today.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the Saints are floundering. I definitely feel like that is totally a thing. I feel like, right, agree. You won the trade for right now. We'll see how the rest of the season pans out for the Saints, but also dealing with the fact that Warren, and we'll talk about it more with waivers because Kenneth Gainwell is on the waiver wire list as well. He's coming off of an injury, not necessarily a really strong one. He may or may not play this week. It is still questionable, but as of right now, you've won in terms of having someone available. They're a body. They could be playing. They could be better. And Kamara's not looking amazing. So could be. I'm trying to stay glass half full. I'm not.
I got you. And I think Jaylen Warren is trending towards being available this week. So yes, I do think you won the trade.
All right, let's go ahead and talk about Omarion Hampton and the Chargers and this cycle of running back that we're dealing with. And I'm going to combine this straight into the waiver targets. Like I mentioned, Hampton put on IR to miss a minimum of 4 games. They put him on IR to not rush him back. So we know for sure at minimum, he's out 4 weeks. It could be more. It could be more given what the injury is. It's a question. So in terms of who you're looking to stopgap fill here, when it comes to the bench depth, you've got Hassan Haskins and Kimani Vidal, and the Chargers went ahead and signed Nyheim Hines to their practice squad today, as of October 7th, 2025. So this is a slew of running backs. I want to talk about who you'd rather have, knowing that Hines only just signed. He still has the potential to play this week, but who would you rather? Given this and such a small sample size, we don't have huge numbers from either of these running backs, talking about Vidal and Haskins in terms of who you'd rather start. I guess for me, out the gate, I'm just looking at their builds, which I have so few things to write up. Literally in my notes, I have their heights and weights just in terms of having something to compare them to. Haskins is bigger.
Well, so I think there's one yes, he is bigger. He's a lot bigger than Kimani Vidal. And I loved Vidal's game coming out of Troy. The thing is, where did Hassan Haskins play college football, Sam?
Michigan.
And who was the head coach there at Michigan while he was in college? Jim Harbaugh. So, yeah, you have a back that profiles as more of an early down thumper and clearly has the trust of the head coach dating back to their college days. Yeah, I think Haskins is the guy I am prioritizing in a big way over Vidal, even though I actually think that Vidal is a sneaky prospect, but my projection is that the roles are going to be Haskins leading this backfield in touches. So that's the guy who has more value to me on the waiver wire.
Yeah. I mean, just that connection alone is kind of, enough to nudge you in terms of who you're going to add for your waiver ads for this week. Again, both of these players, 1% rostered, so likely available in your leagues. So go ahead and make those ads as quick as you can. I'll get to this next question, trade question in just a second here. But it's just a stark landscape when you're looking at running back, because the other backs that are available, just jumping straight into waivers, Rico Dowdle having an amazing game, available in 58% of leagues for playing for Carolina there. So maybe a little bit harder to get on your roster, but holy crap.
I mean, if he's available, it's a no-brainer. I will say that once Chuba Hubbard comes back, because we have a maybe teasing a segment here, fact or fiction. I'm a little bit curious as to Dowdle's performance, which was outstanding. What does that do to the backfield? Does it potentially make it a timeshare moving forward? I mean, it was that impressive, Sam. I mean, Rico was outstanding.
He was phenomenal. Over 200 rushing yards, 206 rushing yards on 23 carries for a rushing touchdown, and go ahead and pepper in 3 receptions for 28 yards. I mean, he was phenomenal. I do agree that it was such an incredible performance that I'd be hard pressed that he's completely shelved even when Hubbard comes back dealing with a calf injury. No news yet whether or not he is going to get the start this week. I feel like they don't need to rush him back, though. This is kind of one of those situations. How are even? I want to look at the Panthers' record really quick as well and see do they even need to bother rushing him back?
They're 2-3 somehow.
That's kind of.
They have won 2 games this year. Miami kind of gave that one away, and then they waxed the Atlanta Falcons. No, the answer to your question, no, they do not need to rush Chuba Hubbard back if Rico Dowdle is going to play like that. Do I think he's going to rip off multiple 40-yard runs every game? No, Miami is a hot mess, but Dallas isn't a terrible matchup, Sam.
No, it's actually pretty friendly. They're 25th against the position. So I feel like it's a solid matchup. I'd be trying to get Dowdle into my lineups if I could this week. Again, keeping an eye on Hubbard if he's going to come back. But again, why rush this?
Through the first 5 games of the season, no team has given up more receiving yards to opposing running backs than the Dallas Cowboys. And they're also allowing opposing running backs to run for, I think, an average of 91 yards on the ground. So to me, and they're normally in a shootout, Sam, it's what it looks like to me because their defense is very suspect. Yeah, I think Dowdle's in like top 20, top 15 consideration if Chuba Hubbard is not available for week 6.
If we'll see. Hopefully Dowdle has another amazing game and you guys are able to get him in your rosters because that was phenomenal. He's got a great matchup. Would love to see it. I'll get to a couple of these comments here really quick. Going back to Kamara really quick. They want to know, is Kamara going to be bad all season? I think that really depends on how you feel about the Saints going rest of the season.
On the Saints, I feel like we have a big enough sample size to say yes. If he's splitting time with Kendry Miller on a bad football team, that to me is not a path for fantasy success. So I think he'll be a fantasy disappointment for the remainder of time that he is on the Saints. If he goes somewhere else to a contender, maybe the Chargers make a deal, maybe the Kansas City Chiefs, who knows? But, you can start speculating. But as of right now with him on the Saints, yes, I do think we have a big enough sample size that he is not a top 20 option on a weekly basis.
I would love to see him with the Chargers, just given all the injuries that they've currently dealing with. Plus is just a veteran presence. Even when Hampton does come back, that'd be pretty amazing to see, them be able to, talk ball and have them in the same room. I think that would be huge for the rookie to have that level veteran experience right there.
Well, not only that, but for Justin Herbert to be able to check it down to somebody with all the offensive line issues with Joe Alt hurt, obviously Slater, before the season. Yeah, I think that having a nice check down safety valve coming out of the backfield would make a little bit of sense. But again, we'll see what happens at the deadline with the Saints.
There's always going to be something. I mean, that is at least the exciting part we've got coming up is the trade deadline. There's going to be moves, just given how many injuries we've already had for the season. It should be fun fireworks. I love to see a shuffle. It just makes me excited. All right, 2 more questions, and then we'll get back to the rest of this waiver wire targets list, and then jump into your new segment, which I'm excited to go over with you as well. This one, before week 5, I traded Egbuka and Kenneth Walker for Nico Collins and Josh Jacobs. I kind of regret it, but not sure. I don't know that you should entirely regret that because Josh Jacobs has been really great for the Packers, and Nico Collins is coming back. Texans obviously on a bye this week, but Egbuka has been so good. Tate, I can imagine you saying, yeah, you should regret this.
As a Buccaneers fan, and who I think is the NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year if it were to end right now.
Today, yeah.
Yeah, today. It doesn't feel good to watch Egbuka just going absolutely bonkers on a weekly basis. But look, you're still going to get a healthy amount of volume and production from Nico Collins. And I believe that you can trust Josh Jacobs a lot more than Kenneth Walker. And again, Mike Evans will be back at some point. I think Chris Godwin's going to start to get healthier. Does that necessarily mean with the way Ibuka's playing that we're going to see a significant drop in his volume? No, but I still think that the real parsing piece of the deal that I like the most here is I think that Josh Jacobs is an upgrade from Kenneth Walker, and Nico Collins and Egbuka are right around that same tier. So I still think you won the trade, even though it didn't feel good in week number 5.
Yeah. See, that's a glass half full take for you right there. I like it. All right, one more, and then let's finish off this waiver wire list for our lovely viewers and listeners. Is the Raiders defense a good streaming option this week versus the Titans?
You can't find another option. I mean, yes, Max Crosby may be able to get a couple sacks. Okay. I don't know. Sure they are, because the Titans are an absolute mess. But the Raiders are also a mess. So I would actually like to know what other options are available, because I feel like you have to find something better than the Raiders defense.
There's got to be better options. I mean, there just has to be. I know that. And here's the thing. If they're both messy, it's not going to make for a pretty end score for either defense in terms of how these teams are going to play. I think it's just going to be messy both sides. But all right, let's get to a couple more waiver wire talks, and then I do want to get into your news segment as well. Got to talk about Michael Carter, running back for the Cardinals, 39% rostered, and he has to get talked about because poor Amari DeMarcado, he was so excited to run in that touchdown. Poor guy. It happens to the best of them.
Excited, he slowed down.
He was so excited, and then he dropped the ball just outside. Just absolutely brutal. Curious if you think that he is going to end up in the doghouse. Funny enough that coming across the ESPN notifications today, finding out that the coach was fined for his actions against Mercado, which was just like, yeah, he was mad. He was definitely mad. I'm trying to find out. I think he was fined $100,000.
Well, yeah, I mean,
pretty steep fine.
When you're on camera, and look, we can't see if it was closed hand or open hand, but he definitely contacted him on the chest.
It wasn't great. There's a lot of cameras,
we have visual evidence that he's in the doghouse. So Michael Carter, though, 5 receptions in the passing game. That is a skill set that he had back in college. And so I'm not surprised to see him involved in the passing game. What was it, 18 carries? The yards per carry wasn't great. Actually, DeMarcado was the most, efficient option with almost a massive touchdown run. But this coaching staff clearly trusts Michael Carter. Yeah. And based off of the evidence and data that we have, Carter is somebody worth picking up on the waiver wire and starting if you're in a pinch, even though I'm not a huge fan of the Cardinals offense because they seem like a mess right now. I think the OC is potentially on the chopping block, but if you're in need of a flex-ish option, then yeah, you could do worse than Michael Carter if he's available on your waiver wire.
Yeah, you could absolutely do worse. But let's talk about worse. Let's talk about my Steelers. In terms of the running back position, talked about Kenneth Gainwell a minute ago, and he is 36% rostered. You could go out and get him. He had a fantastic game in Ireland against the Vikings before their bye. 99 yards, 19 carries, 2 rushing touchdowns. Want to get out the positive, but they do have a very tough matchup against the Browns defense, who plays the position very tight. So I don't know that I like starting Gainwell over someone like Michael Carter, who is going to be getting, he's not in the doghouse. He has a good volume there. He has a lot of trust in the coaches and doesn't necessarily have the worst matchup. I feel like this matchup is somehow worse.
Well, I'll say this. The Minnesota defense isn't exactly filled with
I take it back. They're playing the Colts. Both are bad.
Yeah, but no, what I'm saying is like Gainwell saw the expanded role in London against the Minnesota Vikings, and he had those numbers against a quality defense. Now, I know the Cleveland defense has been solid all season long. I get it. I understand. Not an ideal matchup. Really, the only thing that's the determining factor for me, Sam, is whether Jaylen Warren is playing or not. If Warren plays, I'm not playing Kenneth Gainwell unless it's a super deep league. If he's inactive, yeah, I think he's a low-end running back 2/flex option.
Warren is dealing with a knee injury. He did participate in individual drills in yesterday's practice. So just someone to continue to monitor. Maybe depending on your bench space, if you already have Warren, you want to make sure that you back it up and get Gainwell. I get that. I think that would be a solid move in terms of just to handcuff yourself. But yeah, I don't know. I think that it's such an interesting way that my division has ended up, where Steelers are on top simply because we didn't play this past week. We're just looking so good. So I feel like the Browns are going to come out very strong. So I'm always very hesitant in our matchups in terms of who I'm playing where because of how tough we tend to play each other, especially against the Browns. It's not my favorite matchup.
Divisional games are always, in that division particularly, a bit low scoring. So you're not going to see a lot of fireworks, obviously, in this game. But if the volume is there, the volume is there. And we've seen even like a guy like Quinshon Judkins on a bad offense on volume be able to put up numbers. So still an option if Warren is not available. But if not, stay away.
Still an option. All right, 2 questions, and then I want to jump into your new segment here. This one, do I trade Egbuka, K9, and Sharp for Gibbs and AJ Brown?
Basically it's the Seattle backfield duo for Jahmyr Gibbs. That's a huge win for Gibbs. You are tearing down a little bit with Egbuka to AJ Brown right now.
I agree. Yeah, I'm a little bit nervous about that. That's making me question it.
It depends on what your roster kind of looks like to me. That Sam, I do believe better days are ahead for AJ Brown. I know it looks ugly. I get it. It's
scary.
It's a little angsty there right now, a little uncomfortable. But
talk about spooky season. The Eagles' offense is looking scary to me.
I would be willing to do that because I love Jahmyr Gibbs, and I don't think Gibbs's value is in question here. And if you can get out of that Seattle backfield time split nightmare, then yes, I'd be willing to do it. Although AJ Brown is, not exactly somebody you get excited about right this very moment, but that can change very quickly.
Adding on to that, they want to know what if they can get away with keeping K9 as a part of that.
I mean, if you can trade Charbonnet and Egbuka for Gibbs and AJ Brown, then yeah, because Charbonnet still has a standalone role and Sam's kind of I'm not saying confusing, but it looks like they prefer him when they get closer to the goal line.
They do.
So, he's seeing the same amount of snaps, if not more snaps than Walker on a weekly basis. Yeah, he's not as explosive, but he's getting the more valuable fantasy touches when they get down close. So yes, if you can keep K9, I would do that deal. Yes.
I agree. I mean, throw that trade out there, and if you don't get a nibble or you get an interest and you need to add him back in, understood. But I do think you could try and get away with that trade otherwise.
Yeah.
One more. This one from Evan. Josh Allen, Rashee Rice, Brock Bowers, 4. Mahomes, Metcalf, Brian Thomas. I'm 1-4 with Pitts on the bench and weak wide receivers. Thoughts?
No, I'd hold out. I 1-4 is tough though.
That is brutal.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really dig yourself much more of a hole, but yeah, no, I'm gonna stick with Rashee Rice. You got to wait one more week. One more week. I know Brock Bowers is frustrating too, but luckily you have Pitts on your bench. So, I mean, and Metcalf and Brian Thomas, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, there's got to be other pieces that you can make moves with to try and stopgap some of this because it's just too close. And I'm in agreement with Tate. If you can wait another week, and then see if you can make a trade, because if the receivers as a part of this package were that much better, because you're saying the rest of yours are weak, then I would feel a little bit differently. But I'm not elated by Metcalf and Brian Thomas compared to those. It's just hard to also move away from Josh Allen. But alrighty, Tate, I want you to take this one away. You've got a new segment for us. You've got Fact or Fiction.
Yeah, fact or fiction. Sometimes fiction is a little bit crazier than the facts that we got. But right now, Sam, I want you to do a little bit of projecting.
Okay.
So, fact or fiction. Darren Waller is a top 5 option at tight end for the rest of the season.
Top 5?
Top 5.
I don't know about top 5. 10 I could maybe see a reality for, just because the Dolphins are struggling so much on offense and having a bright spot and leaning on Waller for targets after Hill left with his season-ending injury. Obviously, Waddle's looking really good as well. I just don't. Top 5 is too rich. I know that the position is really. It's so bleak, the difference between the top tight ends and the rest. But I'm guessing you're going to have a pretty strong argument as to why you think so.
I'll have an argument. I actually think that it's fiction as well, but it's close. Top 10, yes.
10, sure. 5, no.
Yeah, but what we've seen from Darren Waller when he's on the football field is generally he's out there because they're running a pass play and they have some sort of play with him in mind, right? Week 1, first action back in a long time, only saw 28% of the snaps, but saw 4 targets and caught 2 touchdown passes with that limited snap work. Then Tyreek Hill gets hurt, and just natural kind of ramp up period for a veteran player coming back, and he catches all 5 of his targets, Sam, for 78 yards. And last year we saw this Miami offense pepper Jonnu Smith, who I think isn't as good at Darren Waller, even at Waller's advanced age. I think Waller looked really good. He's moving around really well, which has me thinking if he's going to see that type of volume that we saw for Jonnu Smith last year and operate as kind of like a big slot for this Dolphins offense, which should be playing from behind frequently, and his snap count continues to expand, I think there's a path for a top 5 for the rest of the season.
I mean, maybe.
Just a path.
There's a path. Is it murky? Yes. But I could see it. I think it's just because when you look at I'm looking at projected rest of season rankings for tight end on fantasylife.com, and you're looking at the top 3, and based obviously on the fact that, Kittle got hurt early, still sitting up at the top for rest of season. You've got McBride, but then you've got Warren in there in the top 3. Then you've got Bowers, obviously still questionable, also dealing with an injury himself. Tucker Kraft is then the next one in line. So you've got these names that we were not planning on being in the top. Jake Ferguson, Kincaid, all projected top 10 rest of the season. Kyle Pitts, Hunter Henry. The fact that we've got...
Stop screaming at me.
I'm not... I'm sorry. I'll speak
kidding.
I'll do this as ASMR. Travis Kelce.
Got it.
You've got Waller ahead of just TJ Hawkinson right now in terms of the way that this list is projecting out for rest of season. It's just, we're also in week 6. It's anyone's ball game. You could hit shuffle on this and, you could end up with Waller much higher. It could happen. I just feel like top 5 is a little bit too rich for me, but I'm excited to hear your next one.
So, fact or fiction? Justin Fields is a must-start quarterback in fantasy football moving forward.
Ooh, must start. I mean, I think he kind of is, because when you look at must start being 12 teams in a league, single quarterback league, and you're looking at rankings, and again, looking at rest of season, he is in that top 12. So in terms of must start, he does need to see your roster. I don't feel like he needs to be on the bench unless it's a single quarterback league and you're starting Josh Allen and you happen to have Justin Fields at depth. That's probably my only reason that I'm benching him, is if I have another top elite quarterback available to me.
If you watch the Jets offense outside of the game against Pittsburgh with Justin Fields under center, it has gotten off to painfully slow starts. And it's scary because you'll enter the second half and Fields has like 5 fantasy points. But Sam, on a points per game basis, there are only 3 quarterbacks that have more fantasy points per game at the quarterback position in 2025. That's Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes. That's it. That's the end of the list. And that's counting the game against Buffalo where he got concussed and did not finish the contest. So I'm just... Look, Fields is not playing at a high level. The whole Jets offense outside of Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall. I mean, we saw some nice things from Mason Taylor. I get it. But right now it's not clicking, and it's got to start get out of neutral or in reverse in the first half. Otherwise, I actually think that Fields could, there could be whispers to maybe go to Tyrod Taylor, which I don't think that that's there yet. But these garbage time minutes and points, Sam, they count for something. And Fields is performing at a level that says that he's supposed to be a must-start quarterback. I just don't know if I feel confident in it. I think it's more matchup-based. I don't want to start him this week against Denver.
No, this week is definitely looking bleak. I mean, Andrea in the comments, matchup with Fields. Yeah, I think it just depends on what you have. Again, also, if you're someone that in redraft formats, you picked up someone like Fields, you probably waited on quarterback and you've got another option. Maybe you have Drake May, and he's also looking great right now in terms of rankings, rest of season. I feel like you're likely someone that has another option besides him. Hopefully you do, in terms of, other quarterbacks available. This comment, I thought Fields would have a long leash. They're not looking good at all. Yeah, it's a bit of a mess there for the Jets, but I agree. I feel like depending on the format, matchup dependent, Fields does deserve to see a roster spot. I mean, 2 QB formats, 100% he does. But single quarterback leagues, it is going to be matchup dependent, and it's all going to depend on who else I have on my roster ahead of him, if anyone.
Got it. Last one, fact or fiction.
Okay.
Rest of season. Stefon Diggs is back to being a top 15 fantasy wide receiver.
Top 15. I can't see that being rest of season top 15. Top 20? Top 20? Top 25. Top 25 for me.
Question was top 15, Sam.
I say no.
Fiction. Okay.
Fiction.
Sam, I get it. 31 years old. Lost a lot of juice the last time we've seen him on the field with the Bills, and obviously season cut short, but didn't look quite as dynamic with the Houston Texans.
Mm-hmm.
But back-to-back 100-yard games with a descending quarterback, does that sound familiar back to his days when he first started with Josh Allen in Buffalo?
Yes. I don't think you're going to change my mind,
though. I'm not. But I do feel like you can confidently start him now. Am I crazy?
Yeah. No, you can definitely more confidently start him. 100%. Likely where you drafted him wasn't as your wide receiver 1 as well. So you likely have other options available to you. And it's just amazing depth, wide receiver 3, wide receiver 2, amazing flex options. Hopefully you've got others available as well, because I feel like he went pretty late in a lot of drafts this season.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, definitely a must start, and you're glad that you picked him up because he is catching fire at the right time.
I know that Kayshon Boutte had a nice little 2-week run, but I believe that it was part of the fact that they were trying to ramp Diggs up from that ACL injury last year.
Yeah.
And it certainly seems as if that his snap count and obviously the looks that he's getting in the passing game have clearly defined him as the number 1 passing option in the passing offense. So to me, moving forward, he looks healthy too, Sam. That's the big thing. He moved around really well against the Buffalo Bills on Sunday night.
Yeah, that was impressive. I mean, there was a lot on the line for him this week going up against his former team. He wanted to show up. He was extremely animated on the sidelines as well. In terms of playing team football this past week, we saw a side of Diggs that I don't feel like we've seen this level of energy from him in a while. He looked like he wanted to make a statement. He was amping up the sidelines, going back and forth. One more, we got this. There was just a lot to like about him in his off the field presence as well. A player that I think has had some questions about that in the past. He looks amped to be doing well, and happy players play better, teams play better. I mean, I'm excited for him. You want to see him do well. And yeah, rest of season, he's going to get a spot starting in any roster that I have him in.
Diggs would have been a great petty parlay candidate last week.
He would have. How did he not make your petty parlay list last week?
Well, I wasn't here last week. That's
why. Why.
Sorry, but I'm back.
You are back. You're back. Is this our segue? This is a solid segue to jump into petty parlays, because there's some of my favorite things that we've been doing on this show for this season, guys. Derek's petty parlays. We try to find you matchups where there is an extra edge for these players and for these matchups that make you want to start them. So Tate, take it away. Which is your first of your 3 petty parlays?
Yeah, kids, it's the Tater parlay of the day. Count them with me. 1, 2, 3-leg parlay. For week number 6. Let's start it off. Sam, we already talked about Rico Dowdle, right?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, Carolina Panthers. They're playing the Dallas Cowboys this week, right?
That they are.
So, didn't it feel like heading into the 2024 NFL season that the Dallas Cowboys and Rico Dowdle, him being their lead back along with Zeke Elliott, kind of felt like they just waited way too long to ask someone to the prom?
Yeah, a little bit.
And they kind of just went stag with Rico Dowdle. Well, Dowdle was just kind of used, right? For that one year rental as a lead back. I thought he showed some signs over the last month of last year with the Dallas Cowboys. They decided to go in a different direction. And Rico Dowdle then has been kind of buried on the depth chart behind Chuba Hubbard to start this season. And then he explodes for the aforementioned 200 yards. And we already talked about the matchup against the Dallas Cowboys, so I'll be brief. He's going to find the end zone. At least once. Anytime touchdown, I'll go with Rico Dowdle against the Dallas Cowboys. On to the New Orleans Saints versus the New England Patriots. Sam, I really had to go digging.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, you did.
It's kind of easy, though. It kind of feels like a cop-out when you mention a petty parlay for Brandon Cooks playing a former team of his, because it feels like he's been on half of the roster of half the teams in the league.
A little bit.
But he's playing against the New England Patriots.
Okay.
And, we're going to talk about, Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed. And, do I think Brandon Cooks could have himself a good game? No, because he hasn't had one yet. And look, no shade at Brandon Cooks, although that sounded really, really mean. But I do think that he can have a longest reception. So over 20 yards for Brandon Cooks, one reception. I'm not being bold enough, though, to say that he's going to score a touchdown.
I like that. I think that's a fit. No, I think that's a good call out, because I can imagine, players wanting to speak up and say, like, hey, get me the ball at least once this week. I think that's a decent one. Yeah. And sometimes you want to find a sneaky one, even, petty. Yes, I'm all for it. Sneaky, I also like.
Sneaky petty.
Sneaky petty.
So one that's not so squeaky or sneaky. I was going to use this as a segue for squeaky. And sometimes the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And I have it in there that A.J. Brown's playing the New York Giants. And you may be wondering, well, there's no petty game against the New York Giants because A.J. Brown didn't play for the New York Giants. Well, yes, that is correct. But the pettiness is against his own offensive coordinator, Kevin Patullo, because they need to get him the gosh darn football.
Yeah,
messed up that delivery right there, Sam. But the point of the matter is Kevin Patullo is the one driving this Philadelphia offensive car, and the warning signs are going off. The right front wheel is squeaking, and the kids are in the back seat just screaming up a storm because nothing is going right. And A.J. Brown is the loudest of those voices. And you have to think eventually a talent like him is going to explode for a game just based off of him making it very well known that he is not happy with how this offense is performing. This is a get-right game against the New York Giants. I think A.J. Brown has over 100 yards and a score. Did it a couple weeks ago. I think he does it here. I think it's a get-right game for the Philadelphia offense. That is your Tater Parlay of the day. 1, 2, 3 legs heading into week number 6.
I like that. Definitely a huge agreement. Just want to put an extra stamp on that. This has to be a get-right game for the Eagles against Giants. There's so many reasons why these teams will play each other tough, but the Eagles, I think, have a lot more at stake here in terms of finishing this, like not only finishing, but putting a stamp on this season that they're still in it. There's still a lot left in the tank, I think, for a lot of players here to get back to the Super Bowl. I still feel like Barkley, it has so much potential to continue to build on what he's done this last year going into the season. I need the Eagles to do well. I have too many shares of all of them.
How the hell did he only see 6 carries?
That makes zero sense. He's got questionable next to his name right now. It has me feeling that he's not 100%, but still, it doesn't make sense.
It's a maintenance injury. I believe he's fine.
Yeah.
It was more so Kevin Patullo with a 2-score lead in the third quarter against a struggling Denver offense at that point decided to go ahead and call over the span, I think, of like 3 possessions, call 8 straight pass plays and give Saquon Barkley 1 carry in the second half.
Yeah.
That's inexcusable to me. That's like a fireable offense. That type of neglect.
Yeah. Don't neglect our favorite toy.
Right. I mean, in this scenario, is he Woody from Toy Story and Andy's not playing with him anymore?
Yeah.
I haven't used a Toy Story reference in a long time.
You have kids.
There's a snake in my boots.
Oh my God.
There we go. Got one in.
You've got them watching too much Ninja Turtles, is what I'm convinced of. There's not enough Pixar.
Come on. Okay, so
do they know the theme song by heart?
I do. Maisie, my youngest, is yes. She kind of mouths some of the words, and then some of them, she just kind of makes the sound. That's exactly what I do when I try to imitate lyrics, because I'm notoriously bad. I used to think it was the Funk's on Rubber, when it's the Funk's your brother from like the late 90s or something like that. And my sister called me the biggest loser in the world, and it was probably appropriate. So, yeah, right now we're just trying to debate in the Tate household what my 2 little girls are going to be for Halloween. Aww. And personally, I would love to be Wolverine from Deadpool and Wolverine, but I'll probably end up being Olaf in 2025.
I need to see pictures if you end up being Olaf. That sounds amazing.
There will be no video evidence of any sort.
Darn, that's funny. Oh my God. Well, that will pretty much wrap it up for us here on Sideline Banter. Please, guys, if you haven't already, make sure that you have followed, liked, and subscribed to the Women of Fantasy Football channel everywhere that you get your podcasts. That way you don't miss out on a single episode of our content, but as well as the rest of the amazing shows that they have for so many of you on so many different ways to view and listen. We've got Spotify, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, everywhere. Just make sure that you're liking and subscribing on YouTube as well, so that way you don't miss any of our live episodes, so that way you can get questions asked and answered. Tate, any final words for our lovely viewers and listeners?
No, have yourself a fantastic night, and until next time, later, says the Tater.
Have a good one, guys. Good luck in week 6, and we will see you next week for week 7.